Inside the 559 CBS4 podcast studio, welcome to the Colts Blue Zone Podcast. We're coming to you a day early, but right on time this week, because it is the week of the NFL Draft. Joined as always by Mike Chappell, Matt Adams. I'm Dave Griffiths. Thank you.
We could have done this Thursday.
We could have.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
I mean, because they're not going to pick.
Exactly. So it doesn't matter, really.
Right.
At the end of the day. Probably not, but figured we'd send it out, get the folks...
Yeah, give an extra day to ponder.
Right.
To take it in and to hear our thoughts, to break down the details. And there's a lot more than just draft, really,
Right.
to talk about.
There's a ton. We may not even get to the mock drafts today.
Yeah,
We'll see.
We will touch on it for sure. Like, we will get to it because we gave a big section to the draft last week.
Correct.
As well. So that was worked well. You should go back and check it. Dave's all-Raz draft. Everyone always looks forward to that every year. By everyone, I mean nobody. But what people do actually look forward to is hearing from some of the movers and shakers inside the Colts complex out there on West 56th Street. And that's where they are now. They are back. The offseason program has begun. It has kicked off. And so we've heard from Shane Steichen, we've heard from Chris Ballard, and several players as well out there. But we should begin with the bigwigs, and that starts with Chris Ballard, who final decision goes through him for who is going to be selected by the Colts at number 40, whatever. it is,
47.
overall, but maybe,
Until they
in the
trade
50s
back.
Or maybe in the
Yeah,
60s.
that's where it'll be.
Wherever it is.
That's a prop bet you should take, and you bank the money. They're going to slide back
Really
4, 5,
want to
6
do it.
spots.
And if he can slide back in the 6th and pick up another third, that'd be tremendous. So he gets 3 picks on that day instead of just 2. Absolutely. But anyway, Chris Ballard plenty to say about the draft, about the offseason that is so far, about what he expects to come over the offseason. But we should start with Daniel Jones. And he does share a bit of good news that Daniel Jones is not just rehabbing, still strength training and flexibility and all that stuff, but he is throwing. And that's not just standing still and throwing a football. That is dropping back and throwing a football.
Which sounds like, well, of course, but no. This is that Achilles. That's when you stop him plant. That's a big deal. So he's ahead of schedule by all measures.
And that he has someone to kind of aim at in his rehab, who is also plowed through. I'm not going to say ahead of schedule, but plowed through it at a very faster than you might think from past 5 or 10 years in Achilles rehabs, and that is Jason Tatum. Shane Steichen said that he spoke with Brad Stevens, Indiana's finest, Brad Stevens, who's now with the Boston Celtics organization, about rehabbing Jason Tatum and getting him back to where he is right now, starring in the NBA playoffs and scoring 25 points a game, grabbing 11 rebounds.
He's averaging a double-double since he's been back.
And I heard somebody say it on the radio, and I wish I knew who it was. I think it was an ESPN radio, just a generic, like one of the morning shows. It was like the 25 points is all good, but the 11 rebounds, that's something that's different. Like to be able to really go banging with guys down
Navigate
low.
in traffic.
Yeah, like you could stay like kind of chill, and still like basketball is pretty tough to move back and forth and then to score, to get space to score. That's not easy. But to be able to get in traffic and out-compete guys, big guys for rebounds, I think that's something truly special. So a pretty good guy. Reach out to Brad Stevens that Shane Steichen did to get his thoughts on what an organization did to help its star get back on the field. He said that Tatum was there, Stevens did all the time. Steichen says that Jones has been at team
was there
all the time.
He was there days after the surgery.
Yes, and still working, getting back into it. So some good signs, I think, for Daniel Jones, and it will be just about 9 months from surgery date to week 1 of the season, and that is the timeline, like I said, that Jason Tatum's been on. So it's the same timeline. You figure basketball might be a little bit tougher on an Achilles, but it's still not easy on a quarterback.
No, it's not easy.
And dropping back and planting to pass is a big step.
Right. It's that sudden movement
And
that does
stopping.
Right.
Well, That's what did it the first time.
Yep.
As I looked on in Jacksonville, Florida, the best place ever for Colts
You
fans.
should never be allowed back there.
Well, tough luck because dadgummit, I'm going again.
So another season of Colts football means another road trip for Dave to Jacksonville.
Until we break this streak.
One of these years, they're not going to play their starters. they're going to send all the second-tier players out there because,
Treat it like the last preseason game of the year.
You might as well, because what you've done hasn't worked well so far.
Right.
But anyway, we don't need to talk about Jacksonville. Not yet. Not until weeks, and months down the road. But I think overall good signs for Daniel Jones and nothing but so far, which is what you would expect, which is the news you would expect to be getting out, that all things are good. But nevertheless, if he's dropping back and throwing right now, with what are we on? April, May, June, July.
He's 4.5 months
August.
out.
Yeah, so
He's
really
4.5 months
3
out.
until the start of training camp,
Right.
I would say,
He-
right now. But yeah, 4.5 till the actual regular season.
I've tried to sit down and kind of really look at the timelines, and Jason Tatum, from injury to return to it was like May 12th to March 6th, I think it was. It's roughly 10 months and a couple of weeks. Jones is going to be quicker. Jones is going to be maybe just short of 9 months because Shane Steichen mentioned that they hope he's ready for the start of training camp. Now, whether he said start of training camp or training camp, I need to go back and see. But again, as we've talked, if he's going to be ready for the 1st of September, he's got to be ready in the middle of August. Mm-hmm. He's got to have some significant progress in practice time. And the one thing that they've always pointed out is that the same doctor who did Tatum and Tyrese Halliburton did Daniel Jones's Achilles. So, and then they can sort of gauge this is where he is. And who knows, if the Pacers had a better season, might have Halliburton come back.
I don't think that was ever in the plans.
I think that was, I think you're right.
Yeah,
From the start, they just sort of ruled out.
No, like
right.
he's done.
Right.
And I think in part, the Celtics still had some hopes and dreams in the
Right.
season without Tatum because they had
Yeah, they were still playing well enough.
still
Yeah.
an incredible player in his
Right.
own right, and like Pascal Siakam's a pretty darn good player himself,
Right.
but Jaylen Brown I think is on
True.
another tier himself. So they still have one of their 2 stars. They
Right.
could hope for a getting into the playoffs, and so they could
True.
push Tatum to be like, hey, nothing until then, and at that point, just rip
Right.
roar, ready to go. But for the Pacers, I don't think it was ever really a
Right.
thing that they would try to push to the playoffs and say, Tyrese, there you go.
Right, and that's probably that's a good position to take.
Yeah.
So you're pushing him, but you're not accelerating the return. So again, I think what's going to be interesting when we get to OTAs and I've not got the dates, late May and early June, is how much, if anything, will Jones be doing? Will he? I think at the very least he'll be out there at the quarterback positional drills,
Yeah.
and throwing.
Yeah.
Now whether he does anything in teamwork, that might be a stretch. But I think we're going to see that. And again, I've said all along he needs to be ready for the middle of training camp, and maybe he's ready before that. Although early on, I would think you monitor his reps and how much time he's on his feet.
At the end of the day, it's just good to be getting Daniel Jones
No
updates,
question.
and not from Jim Nance.
Right,
Respect
absolutely.
Jim Nance.
Yeah, right. But we the Colts posted some video of Daniel Jones walking into, the off-season work and
Right.
all that stuff. And again, not that we distrust Jim Nance, but this is firsthand. You're able to see it, and then you're hearing from the team, and things do sound pretty good here.
Hello, friends. Welcome to the Masters. Yeah.
Tradition unlike any other.
Indeed it is. Alec Pierce. Maybe not as good news on Alec Pierce. Sirens going off. Beep, boop, beep, boop. Uh-oh. A procedure. Mike, you know how we feel about procedures.
Cleanup procedure,
In this room. Pierce played through a bad ankle last year, allegedly.
which he was never on, to my knowledge, on the injury report at any point.
I don't think
which
so.
doesn't mean you're not fighting through things.
Right, totally not. But nevertheless,
Right.
Alec Pierce had is going to have or
No, he
Has
had
had.
he had
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Had this procedure with a 3-month recovery. Is expected to return in time for training camp, and it is about 3 months until then.
Yep.
Here's the good news. Like, I don't think you need Alec Pierce throughout this offseason.
Right.
Training camp, fantastic. Getting back then, especially if Daniel Jones is back
Correct.
right around then. But it could be good for a guy like Riley Leonard to have a number 1 receiver out there, or your number 1 receiver out there to kind of help him along. But nevertheless, doesn't look like Alec Pierce is going to get any significant work in this offseason.
Well, the silver lining that might be that you're going to get more work for Ashton Doolin, whoever that third guy might be, maybe a draft pick.
Maybe Josh Downs gets more outside work.
Right, maybe. I think Shane Steichen has mentioned that. So that's there's always an upside downside. Again, the problem is it's the perception is. So here the Colts invested $200 million in
Yeah.
a quarterback rehab an Achilles and your top receiver who had ankle surgery.
Yeah, hey, woo,
But
here we go,
it's
guys.
much better. It's just much better to. And they had this discussion. Chris Ballard told us they had discussion with Alec Pierce, and Pierce told him, "I can probably play through this again." Well, just get it taken care of.
Right.
As long as he's ready for the start of training camp.
Now's the time to do it.
Yeah, there have been times that teams have and players have put this off and then you get close to training camp and it's not gotten better, and then you miss time when you have it done. So this will work out fine, providing there's no setbacks. Right. And it's just it's that latest. It adds another guy to the list of, well, he's coming back from this with Justin Wally and Hunter Waller and all these guys who are dealing with injuries or rehab.
And I think that, like I say, alarm bells and wee sirens, like I say it mostly tongue-in-cheek.
Right.
But at the same time, we've seen it in the past. With the one that comes to mind immediately is Shaq Leonard, just with the procedure that he had in the offseason. It's like, well, let's get him back to the start of training camp. That never happened. That's a much, much different injury and different procedure than what's happening with Alec Pierce. But I can understand Colts fans seeing this news and being like,
you just shake your
not
head.
again.
You just shake your head.
Yeah, you'd give $200 million to this duo, and this is where we are.
And if you played this week, you're not playing.
Right, exactly.
Which is a stretch, obviously. And again, there was some. Chris Ballard talked a lot about the draft, but a lot of the news came out with these players, and we got an update on DeForest Buckner.
Yes, we
did. And then we talked to Buck on Tuesday, I guess it was.
Buck. Yeah.
So he's probably the most indispensable defensive player. I could argue that till the cows come home. I really could.
Yep. Especially if you're trading away Kenny Moore and Zaire Franklin.
Right. And Michael Pittman from a leadership standpoint in the locker room. So again, he talked draft, but most of the news that came out of it, and then he reaffirmed that I'm sure it's on our outline list here too about Kenny Moore and AR. Anthony Richardson
we'll get to that.
being excused.
But we'll continue with DeForest Buckner because he had a post. Like whenever DeForest Buckner makes a Instagram post, he's not a guy who puts 5 posts out a day.
Right.
When they come out, I'm like, oh, and it's about football, not like his family or training or anything like that. Like it's like, oh, this is notable. He gave some indications that like how many years does he have left to play, and is this 1 year? Is this it? Well, it is his last year under contract with the Indianapolis Colts. So, you were there in the building. This is what you said the other week here on this podcast, Chap, that you maybe one of the things you were most interested to hear Chris Ballard have to say. What did he say, and how happy were you with what he said, and then leading into DeForest Buckner, what he told us on Tuesday?
He just said he's making good progress, and he says, he made it sound like the start of training camp he'll be back. So this is still a long rehab, and we talked to Buck about this, and he admitted that with this injury, I think he may have called it last year like the most significant thing he's had to deal with, because you're talking about, your livelihood after football.
Right.
And he had it was a disc issue that was pressing on a nerve, and we've heard that before with players, which we've already mentioned Shaq Leonard. So he said that early on, before surgery, I think he said he had some dark thoughts and dark moments about, because you're thinking about your mortality as a football player, and he said early on in the surgery he couldn't do much. He said he couldn't even lift his kids. You couldn't lift 10 pounds. He's well past that. He's running now, so I think all signs are good. But again, with this, you're not going to know until he gets out there, and he's been given as much assurance as you can that you're going to be fine. But until you get out there and have Quentin Nelson, pound on you for an afternoon, you won't know.
And pound on him, Quentin Nelson will.
He will, because that's what Quentin Nelson does. Nail and hammer.
His true joy.
That's right.
In life. And him and then Grover Stewart, his true joy is to choke some dudes out, as he says every year. That's my favorite thing. The favorite thing happens when Grover Stewart comes to us at like the first day of pads in training camp. Says he was happy to choke some dudes out today. It's the soundbite that I run every season. So DeForest Buckner, waiting in the wings, kind of like a couple other guys. On Spencer Schrader. Spencer is already kicking after he tore his ACL back in October, hit a 54-yarder.
I think he's ahead of schedule. I think we talked to Spencer at the end of the year, and I thought he was talking May or June to really start kicking.
He was the AFC Special Teams Player of the Month in the 1 month that he completed out there.
A good month.
11 points scored. Pretty good. Not too shabby for the young man. Westfield's finest.
That's right.
Spencer Schrader, Notre Dame product. And so all signs point to him being ready for training camp. And if he's not, Blake Grupe is still on the roster. So that's going to be that's going to be a battle. And if nothing else, the Colts have him on the roster so that they can say at the end of training camp to other teams across the league, obviously we're going to cut this guy. We're not going to keep two, but do you want first dibs? Do you want him for sure instead of having to battle through waivers for him? And we'll trade you. We'll give you a 6th round pick.
Right.
You know, it's fantastic. You get your kicker, who is looking great, and last year was perfect for us in his time there. So my kicker is not something that gets a ton of play on this podcast.
Until you don't have one.
Until you don't have one. Until it's you're talking about a hot rod every week. Your guy and mine, as Chap
Lego man
and shakes his head. And so we don't have to deal with that all too much. But nevertheless, hope to see Spencer back and competing. Justin Wally and Hunter Woolard, rookies last year, but arrow up in training camp and then arrow down because of injuries to both of them. A lot of guys who are injured that the Colts want to work back into things. How close to ready are these two players, Chap, from the lips of Chris Ballard?
He mentioned they were near the end of their rehabs, and I think they will participate in OTAs.
And that's a better sign. Like, it's more important for these two guys going to their second year.
They need these guys really bad.
DeForest Buckners and Alec Pierce, right?
You know what you've got with the veteran guys. You think you know what you've got, what you hope you've got with the young guys, but you don't know. But I can still go back and listen to the position coaches and the coordinator last year in training camp, and these two guys were going to play.
Yeah.
They were going to play a lot. So getting these back, it's almost like it supplements your draft this year because they didn't get a chance. Now, again, they were late round picks last year. So, but still, they showed they probably were better than their draft status. So, and those are positions that they're going to need, especially with the Kenny Moore situation.
I remember last training camp, kept waiting for like Jalen Jones or someone else to come take reps ahead of Justin Wally. And no one ever did.
It never happened.
Like it was Charvarius Ward and Justin Wall. Like
he was gonna be the opening day starter
from day one of training camp. That we
Yes.
saw those two guys. That was it. It was like, oh, who's hurt? Like who's you trying to mix in? Oh, hey, that's a good sign. This rookie coming in getting some first team reps, and then he just kept all of them.
Well, I think Lou said, yeah, he earned it.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, this is a meritocracy. They just don't give you spots. Well, they've done that on a few occasions to the detriment of the team.
Well, speaking of one of those few occasions, trade updates for a young man named Anthony Richardson and also Kenny Moore II. Chris Ballard says no movement right now, but both players are sitting out as the offseason work begins. That's what I fully expected, that neither of them would be at training camp. So that's not a red flag for anybody out there, but they're trying to work to move these players away. And it's more likely than not that something happens this weekend because it is.
If it's going to happen,
if it's going to happen in the immediate future. If not, this could last quite a while. I think into the offseason. If a team really gets interested, then somebody gets hurt and tries to bring in Kenny Moore, for example, and or somebody doesn't get who they want in the draft and brings in Anthony Richardson as developmental quarterback. But no movement right now is what Chris Ballard said.
Yeah, again, they've had Green Bay has had an interest at some level, however you want to put a number on it, in Richardson, and they need a backup. They lost Malik Willis to Miami, right? So they need a guy, and it would be a great situation to where they've got their starter and they've got a coach who works with quarterbacks. I don't know that the Colts would play hardball with, no, we're going to get a fifth or we're not going to trade him. I understand where Chris Ballard's coming from on still trying to keep the trade value up of the player, because he always talks about it. He's a great kid. Great talent, amazing talent. He needs to say that. Well, some of it's true. No, most of it's true. He's a great talent, and he's never been a problem. I was on radio last week, and somebody said, well, do you see this being a toxic situation if Richardson's back? I would never consider Richardson toxic.
Right, I fully agree.
But I do think, I don't know how you don't consider it a distraction if during OTAs it's AR if he's here for OTAs, maybe he's not, and Leonard sharing reps, or if to start a training camp, it's all three of them with Richardson taking snaps. So I wouldn't be shocked if he's moved on Saturday. Again, I understand. What I don't understand, we've talked about this, is if you want a developmental guy, send the Colts a 5 or a 6 for Richardson as opposed to taking a flyer on a quarterback in round 5 or 6.
Yeah.
Now, the problem is Richardson's going to carry like a $5 million base salary, and some teams may believe, maybe rightly so, that this is who he is as far as developing as a quarterback. But I would rather have a guy that's, and it's funny, he's younger than Garrett Nussmeier, and he's about the same age as the other guys, not Mendoza. So it makes sense for teams to take a flyer on him. But the main question, and Chris really wouldn't go on the record with it, is what happens if there's no trade with both of them.
Right.
I thought he all but said, if there's no trade for Kenny, we're going to release him. He sort of said, we'll do what's right by him. He said we'll give him more latitude, which I don't know what that means. Kenny's latitude is he's not here.
Yeah.
So, but with AR, he wouldn't go there because he said he still has value. I just don't see how it would work with him being here with all the baggage that's been collected.
Yeah, I think baggage is the right word, and toxicity, like you mentioned earlier, is the wrong word.
Right.
Like those are two very different
Right.
things. And the only thing that the toxicity maybe spewed out was when he tapped out, and there was consequences and repercussions
Right.
For honestly some of the actions that the Colts have taken by propping him up for too long,
Right.
without consequences, without
earning it.
Without earning a spot,
Right.
and getting a spot. So I understand Chris's point that they still think that he's he has value, but the Colts kind of have also stymied his value in some point by not preparing him in the right way.
Right.
So you have to convince other teams that you're the one who screwed up.
It only takes one team.
Exactly. So you're right. I said teams. That's really not correct. You have to convince team, just one,
Right.
that he has value, and then move on from there. So to be determined about both of those guys, and we'll keep our ears to the ground this weekend at the NFL draft to see if anything does end up there. Chris Ballard talking about this draft says, as is always the case, believes it's a strong draft and anticipated being pretty aggressive moving around on the board, which if you have listened
Exactly.
to one podcast on Chris Ballard of the draft, right, Matt? That is not surprising.
Not at all. No.
Chris
No.
likes to trade back.
Yep.
He likes them picks.
He did go back and change the word aggressive to active.
Okay.
Active. You're right.
Because in
You're
my
right.
mind, aggressive means we're going to move up
We're,
and get
we're
somebody.
moving up. Yeah.
But he sort of made it clear that he said active is probably a better word.
So either he's really sandbagging it, that he's not trying to trade the second and third round picks just to move up to the end of the first round and grab somebody, which surprised me.
There is a Blutarski chance of moving up, which, if you don't believe that Animal House is one of the all-time great movies, that's a 0.0.
Mm-hmm.
They're not moving up in round one.
No, it does not seem to be the case that is going to happen. So we will go to Colts headquarters on Thursday night.
They'll give us a free dinner.
We will sit back, we will enjoy our meal, and we will
Leave
muck
a-
it up with each other, as we always do.
And
in
we'll
that
leave
room.
around 11 o'clock and say, well, we didn't get anything done there.
We'll see you tomorrow, is
right.
what we'll say on Thursday night. And hopefully then we will actually have a little bit of work to do. So, yeah, they have 7 picks going into this draft. If they don't end up with 9, at least, I would
Be
stunned.
very surprising.
And especially if you're trading away Kenny Moore or Anthony Richardson
Right.
for more picks as well. Maybe if you get something later, like you trade up a 5th to move up in the 4th or up in the 3rd to get a guy
Right.
that you have kind of targeted at that point. Like, not as surprised if they trade up, but there will be more trade backs.
Right.
There will be more accumulation of picks. And the Colts will have at least 9 new rookies.
It's one of those.
drafted.
It's one of those prop bets. I wonder, if it's the over under is 7.5, you take the over and you start counting your money.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely put it right at 9, like,
Right.
and then just if it's a push, then so
Right.
be it. But
Right.
I would put the number right at 9, and because I really think that's the most likely outcome.
Like you said, the more draft picks, the more shots at the board.
And I might even take over at that point, because I think it would probably be more likely that they would have more than 9
Right.
than less than 9 at this point. So. On the defensive end, Chris Ballard says, I do think adding a fastball is kind of what we need.
As opposed to a Quiddy Pay, who was more of a
a workhorse.
Yes,
You know?
there you go. Yeah,
So there's more. Yeah.
they want an explosive guy, which who doesn't? The problem's going to be they're at 47. And one thing I asked Chris Ballard was, if you agree with the premise that you need an edge rusher and a linebacker, and you're looking at two prospects, maybe the defensive end guy is the 7th or 8th best guy on your board at that position,
Yeah.
as opposed to a linebacker who's 3rd or 4th on it. What do you do? And that's where he goes to how they've got him ranked on their board and what they consider their more pressing need. It's got to be defensive end. It just has to be. But where do you go? And he still said then you take the best player at that point.
It isn't at least an interesting discussion to have, because you say a defensive end that you draft is going to be on the field for 40%, maybe
Right.
50% at most snaps as a rookie, unless he's just otherworldly.
But not just a rookie.
60, 65.
And not just as a rookie. All their defensive linemen
Exactly.
are like that.
But you take a linebacker like Zaire was out there 90+% of snaps. if not
97 or
close to
98% of the
100.
time.
So if you want like play by play, how much this person is impacting the game as in play numbers, you draft a linebacker. But if it's impacting a game, like they're as we say with JJ Watt all the time, you can get stuff for 75 plays and then
Those 2 or 3 plays turn a game.
Exactly.
Right.
So it's really it all goes into what specific GMs, front offices, head coaches, defensive coordinators value.
Right.
What Chris Ballard has said in the past is like he loves picks, so he loves all the darts. He also builds through the trenches.
Right.
And that means offensive line, defensive line. If that's not shored up, then nothing else
Right.
matters at the end of the day. So if we take what we have learned in the past from what Chris Ballard has said, getting a defensive end who they believe can impact the game, I think would be where they would turn in the second
Right.
round if that guy is available.
Right. Now, one thing that's interesting, and I'm sort of starting to talk myself into this, what if you get at 47 and the IU corner,
D'Angelo Pons
is there? What if a safety who you didn't think would be there? Then,
Nailed down, falls down to 47.
yeah, boy, you'd run
I'd take
run
it. Yeah,
up
absolutely.
with the pick. But if you've got a guy at a position that maybe is not the pressing position, but is got such a better grade than the end or the linebacker, I don't think they would ignore their board and not take that guy.
So defensive players certainly to be drafted. Where they come in rounds 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, we will find
They
out.
will draft. They're going to draft 2 linebackers. They're going to draft an offensive lineman or 2. They need an interior guy with Danny Pinner being gone, and I can argue pretty strong that they need a tackle. Because you think you know what you have with Jalen Travis, but you don't.
You can hope in one hand.
Right? Yeah, you're right. And what do you got? So and the whole thing is and he mentioned this is when you're making these decisions, you have to put faith in guys you've brought in previously to develop. That's their job of Reggie Wayne and all the other position coaches. So, but they're never ever going to ignore the trenches ever.
Yeah. It's rare that guys that you develop like that you draft high, rarely don't get a shot on your team.
What was Travis, a 4? It was a 4.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. So, and you look back, even the year before that, it was Freeland that
Right.
got a shot as a starter his rookie year, and then they drafted Travis the next year. They
Right.
said, well, let's kind of
Well,
reset a little
Freeland
bit
was
for the starter.
2 years prior.
2 years prior.
Right.
Yeah, you're right. So
Right.
he had a little bit of time.
And they threw him out there as a rookie, and
Yeah, that's
and
Myles Garrett.
yeah, which is that
good
was
luck.
cruel.
Good luck, big guy.
That was cruel.
Yeah.
But I just think they, and again, I want to see in OTAs, will they have Travis at right tackle? Will they have Gonzalez at right tackle? And I want to see how that plays out in OTAs.
Me too. That'd be really interesting. So, hang on. Doesn't go very far. But,
Sure.
no, all good. No worries. We're technical difficulties and glitches to figure out what the heck is
Turbulence.
happening here. Yeah, exactly.
Turbulence on your-
It's a new studio for all of us. It's a new.
Whenever he gets flustered over there, I wonder what's going on.
Exactly. No, I'm trying to figure it out myself. How about if I kind of scooch this way?
I wasn't getting any levels on 4, and we did at the top of the show, and then I noticed.
All of a sudden they're gone. I wasn't playing with it too much. Was I, the microphone?
I think something came loose there.
Daggone it. Are we back in here?
No.
It's gone.
It's gone.
Well, fantastic.
So we can try mic 3.
Yeah, we're stretching mic 3 over here. That's cool. I mean, I can just kind of lean this way.
You're good. I'll just
hear you and see you.
That way. This is a live podcast, folks. Live to tape, as we call it in the
This
in
is
the
how the
industry.
sausage is made.
Indeed, it is. So now we're kind of closer to my microphony over this way. And ready to continue on, assuming that there's maybe 1 or 2 more levels over this way.
Yeah, you're good.
All right, yeah,
You're good.
we're good enough. So welcome to this side of the podcast room as we move this way. You mentioned the off-season offensive line. Jalen Travis, Matt Gonzalez in their positions. Gonzalez, who was it Chris Ballard talking about him working with Olin Kreutz in the offseason, longtime Bears All-Pro.
And previously he had worked with Danny Pinner and Will Fries, which worked out pretty well.
Olin, pretty darn good player in his day, and Chris would know him from his time in Chicago, of course, too. So trying to work up those younger guys in the in the center of the offensive line. Josh Downs, Chris Ballard believes that Downs getting the ball more due to Pierce is going to be a good thing.
Right.
And I believe that is going to be a good thing too for Josh and for the offense. We'll see how he's different than Michael Pittman, which sounds like something really stupid to say because they're very different different receivers.
Body types and all that.
They look different. They have different abilities. So the onus falls on Shane Steichen to figure out if Josh Downs is going to be a primary ball catcher and handler in Michael Pittman Jr.'s absence. How does Steichen have to change what he's doing on a daily basis? What can he keep the same? But it can't be entirely the same. Like we've been saying on this podcast for several weeks leading up to the draft about specific players meeting specific guidelines, but you got to fit your scheme to the best players that come in.
Yeah, it's a players' league, as you always say, and it is. And again, Downs is coming off his least productive season. We only had 3, but and so much of it was because of Tyler Warren. It just was. He took a lot of those targets that Downs would have gotten. So all of a sudden, if you're increasing Downs, you would think that would mean that they're changing his routes and where he lines up, and he just doesn't appear to be the kind of guy who's an outside guy. He just doesn't. So I understand that Tyler Warren's going to take up some of the slack from Michael Pittman, but he's still a tight end.
Right.
You still need to have I still think you need a third receiver, legitimate receiver, so that you can maximize what Warren gives you as a matchup problem at tight end. But I think Josh Downs is headed for a really and you talk about timing. He's going into a contract here.
Perfect
timing.
Perfect timing. And again, it's one of those with draft picks. You want to hit on them, and when you hit on them, you got to pay them.
Yep.
Normally.
Yeah.
And this team has been doing that with Pittman, with Bernie Ryman and all these guys, Alec Pierce. So it's a good problem to have.
Yeah, I'll say about Shane Steichen talking about Josh Downs too. Like he says he expects an expanded role.
Right.
So this is not just us spitballing that Josh Downs could get more reps. This is coming from the head coach saying this and that some reps on the outside and see where things go was what he said about that, which is probably just his way of bringing the discussion to to because Shane, when he's done talking with us, he's done talking with us.
Follow-ups, you can ask him, and
you're not going to get too much. So let's see where things go. Is like, okay, I've said my piece. It's not really. Like you might hear him say that if you are unfamiliar with Shane Steichen and think, oh, it's just a test to see what's happening. This is something that they are doing, and he's just done talking about it for now. So we'll get to see it throughout the offseason and training camp exactly what he's doing.
I was very impressed last year by how Josh Downs handled being less of a contributor. It'd be really easy for players to pout and bitch and moan. He never did that. Now, he may have gone home and screamed at the walls, but it was really important how he handled it. But with Reggie Wayne working with these guys in the room, I just think Josh Downs is poised to have a really big year.
Well, let's continue with some other things Shane Steichen had to say as he stepped up to the microphone this week. Talking about Daniel Jones saying he's doing great at the rehab, working tirelessly at it. And I mentioned the Brad Stevens thing. Anything else from Shane that stood up to you about Daniel Jones that we haven't really covered yet, Mike?
No, but he did mention that somebody asked about what will his role be in OTAs, and he didn't rule out, like we talked earlier, Jones doing something.
Right.
I think he'll be out there. I think it's crazy to expect him to do much more than just throw in positions, but again, all arrows were up on Jones.
Riley Leonard saying he'll get a lot of reps, obviously, during OTAs. And Seth Hennigan will also get some reps, guys. So be ready for the Seth Hennigan era here in Indianapolis. Just a fair warning there.
Unless they draft a quarterback.
So he also didn't rule out, drafting a quarterback or bringing out a free agent guy.
Yeah, bring him in as a top 30 or I can't even continue.
I just don't know for a team that values draft picks why you would waste on a developmental quarterback.
Maybe if you had 13 draft picks going into this year,
Right.
like you did a couple years ago, but no, not.
I
not
just
now.
don't see it. I don't see it.
So with Pierce out, with Pittman Jr., Mitchell gone, opportunities also for Ashton Doolin, Nick Westbrook-Akine, Laquan Treadwell mentioned as well. All those guys, I call them the Zach Pascal guys. You love them in their role. Love them in their role.
Right.
Awesome in their role. You want to increase their role?
Well, if you increase Ashton Doolin a lot, do you back off the special teams? I mean,
He's so valuable.
He's just a great special teams
gunner.
player.
So
And he played defense last year.
maybe you roll with him more on first or second down if you like his blocking and could be a good blocking outside receiver. Have Josh Downs in there more on third down, and then he can come in on fourth down when you punt it away. So hopefully you never punt it away like they did for a couple weeks there at the start of the season. We kept asking Arrigo, "Hey, buddy, what's going on?"
What are you doing?
Yeah, just sitting there collecting a paycheck. Good for you. It's good work if you can get it.
Great work.
Being a punter on a team that doesn't punt the ball. Talking about team leadership, Shane Steichen says with Pittman, Zaire, Kenny Moore almost gone out of the building, falls on Buckner, Quentin, Jonathan Taylor, Daniel Jones are kind of the people that he's singled out, and no surprises among that group of guys that you would expect to take on leadership roles.
Locker room figures that out. You can't. I've just seen times when teams have tried to force leadership on people and it doesn't work. Well, Michael Pittman was a captain for 1 year, I think, and then not.
Right.
I always go back to with the Pacers when they had Reggie Miller as your guy, and he's gone, and they tried to make Jermaine Neal a leader, and some guys just aren't cut out like that. But they'll find who their leaders are.
I think that there should not be shame in that, saying that guys are just not the leadership types.
Right.
They can be elite athletes and huge contributors to the team, but just not the locker room leader. Rah, follow me guy that every team needs in some capacity. So we'll see how exactly that shakes out. One player who could step into a leadership role is Sauce Gardner, who expects his leadership role to become much more significant as he is playing and not getting hurt, hopefully, knock on wood. But Sauce says that he doesn't feel much additional pressure during draft week, even though the team doesn't have a first-round pick. He is their first-round pick.
He even said
for
that
the next 2
I'm
years.
the first-round pick, and he said I have to be the first-round pick for the next 2 years.
I like Sauce. I like his attitude.
Yes.
I like his demeanor, and he's been a pretty darn good player. I hope he's fully healthy. I hope he's ready to go, which he should be by then. I hope he stays such, getting a full year for Colts fans to appreciate and see what he can do.
He missed games at the end of the season with a calf injury. And it was really funny. He's such a personable guy. As he sort of said that the calf injury was sort of karma. He said he answered a phone call a day or two before that he shouldn't have answered. Mm-hmm. And then, like, the next day, he hurts his calf. So we tried to
Coax some more out of him?
Yeah, and he didn't go there. But you can only, your mind wonders what it was. But he's just a confident. He's what you want in a corner. Mm-hmm. He knows he's good. And the idea of Sauce and Mooney Ward playing together, which they did very sparingly last year, it's pretty encouraging what that could be. I remember back when Vontae Davis had 2 or 3 quality years. Mm-hmm. It just makes a difference.
It does, completely.
So we'll see where that goes, and that will. I guess that could help compensate for a pass rush that might not be what you want it to be. I would always rather have the other way around.
Right.
Have a stronger pass rush and deal with the back end. But the idea of having Sauce and Mooney Ward is really encouraging.
Yeah. The value of the pass rush before the corners is like you can have average corners know they can be aggressive.
Right.
And that makes them better. But if you have the corners not relying on the pass rush, like they might be aggressive by nature and might be better at aggressive play, but there's just more time for the receiver to make several moves.
An extra move,
Yeah, exactly. So it's just harder to stay with guys for longer than that one move. If teams are on time on target and trying to be very much in sequence still, then the corners will certainly help a pass rush get there, 'cause especially you can fluster a quarterback and get him moving all over the place, and that behooves your offensive line or defensive line rather in that sense. But anyway, Riley Leonard, we touched on him a little bit earlier, saying that this is the most time off he's had since high school, and he was itching to get back. Feel like he's approached it the right way. Well, he's going to be QB1, so this is his job right now. He's the guy. Every number starting rep is going to go through number 15 throughout this offseason.
It was interesting too. He offered it to where he got married in late March, 28th I think it was. Mm-hmm. He said in the morning of my wedding, he in Alabama, Fairhope, and he and Daniel Jones went over to Philip Rivers' house and just tossed the old football around.
That's fun.
He said I needed to work up a sweat.
Yes.
So it just so happened to be that was the last 3 Colts starting quarterbacks in the backyard, just heaving the ball around.
Yep. The last 3 Colts starting quarterbacks.
I'm sure Gunner was there too.
He probably was. Maybe the next Colts starting quarterback at the rate that we're at right now.
Maybe he had the best arm of all of them. I don't know.
He could have. Well, I'll say Daniel Jones' arm probably pretty solid. Just legs not quite underneath him yet. So we'll give DJ the benefit of the doubt. Let's touch on mock draft because we should. The draft is getting close to hours away, and even if the Colts don't have a first round pick, there are plenty of ideas about where they could go in the second and third round. Plenty of guys there that they've had in recent years that have been game-changing type players. You mentioned Michael Pittman, Jonathan Taylor. Very few more so than that year. We're getting those two. And Chris Ballard traded up there in the second round for Taylor, knowing that, just feeling he had to get him.
Right.
And
that's where the owner said, you need to get him.
Yeah, just go get him.
Yeah, go get him.
You keep talking about him, go get him.
Right.
So, they knew they needed a receiver early in that round, so that's why they took Pitt. And Pitt was like a Frank Reich guy, it seemed like. Frank loved him. He had him high on his list of receivers that year. And that was a good receiver year, too.
Right.
I forget all the guys who got taken before him, but I do know that it was a good one, and that Pitt was just one of the first after T. Higgins was taken. T. Higgins was taken near the top of the second round, or at the top, and then the Colts had it maybe the next pick.
Pitt was a darn good player.
Yes, really good player.
You wanted more, but you always want more. Pitt was... I think I'll get the numbers mixed up, but I think all-time Colts, he's like 5th catches and 7th yards.
Yeah.
And they've had some pretty good receivers.
If only he could have built on that second season he had, which was his best year as a pro. Like maybe you want some consistency. Maybe you bring back the quarterback and see if you can build on something into that next year. But it wasn't meant to be.
Let it go.
I will never, ever let it go. I promise. But anyway, looking at what the Colts could be in the second, third round. NFL.com, ESPN's Mel Kiper Jr. has them taking Anthony Hill Jr. in the second round, a linebacker out of Tennessee, 6'2", 238 pounds.
Texas.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. Yeah. I know he's at Texas too.
Yeah,
so.
that's
son of a gun. No worries.
Yeah,
like that. I take 50% of the blame for that one.
Yeah, you should take 25%.
Okay, 3 down linebacker, athleticism to cover tight ends, burst on the blitz, instincts to be a reliable run defender. So says NFL.com. Those are all the things you want from a linebacker, right there.
I've seen a couple of drafts that's got him in the third round.
And you see him. You saw a quick picture there if you're watching on Fox 59 now, or if you're watching on YouTube, that he was at the Senior Bowl. So he had the Senior Bowl jersey on there. You know the Colts love to take guys from the Senior Bowl because that's the time that they get to go as coaches and spend time with some of these guys, see them against the draftees, the guys who are coming out as draft picks. So I think if he's there, it would be hard, and you don't have your eyes set on a specific pass rusher. Anthony Hill Jr. out of Texas could be a very likely pick for the Colts here in the second round, for sure.
They need to find a starting linebacker in the draft.
Yes, at some point, whether it's the second or third round, but it needs to be someone who's going to play quite a bit. So you have your Akeem Davis-Gaither, you have your Austin Najike, and then you have a bunch of guys right now.
And again, I wonder how if the draft falls a certain way, do they
sign Jermaine Pratt, like you said?
I think that would be a decent fallback.
Yes. So we will see. Let's see, other second-round picks. Matt, I'm going to jump around a little
That's
bit
fine.
here to find, let's see, Bleacher Report second-round pick is Illinois edge rusher Cabe Jackus, a 6'4", 260
I think
pounds.
it's pronounced Ackus.
Ackus. Cabe.
Yeah, the J is silent.
Oh,
from
okay.
Just to make it harder for us.
Yeah.
Yogging. It's pronounced Yogging. The J is silent. He's well built with tremendous play strength, the ability to play with a hand down on the edge or stand up, more rugged than explosive and twitchy. So maybe like that seems to be the guy that Ballard doesn't want, more rugged than explosive and twitchy. So if you're gonna get somebody in the second round, more explosive and twitchy would be more likely the case.
Right.
I would think. Maybe they see something in Ackus that is more so than what NFL.com's Lance Zierlein thinks.
My understanding is this kid had an incredible senior.
He did have
Senior
a
Bowl.
Senior Bowl. Okay, he
Yeah.
had a really good year too for
Yes.
Illinois
Yes, he
as
did.
well. But you put up guys who have performed well at the Senior Bowl in the past, and like there's a lot of Colts. There's a steady stream of Colts who
I thought
performed well at the Senior
I
Bowl.
remember that Cato June was an assistant coach this year at the Senior Bowl. Maybe it was last year. But they value that big time.
ESPN's Jordan Reed has the Colts drafting in the second round linebacker Jacob Rodriguez out of Texas Tech, who was the best linebacker in college football last year.
Bar none.
Bronco Nagurski Award winner. If he falls to the Colts, I think you run up there with the card and you take him because it immediately solves that problem. You have your guy there for the next 4 years.
Right.
You don't worry about it. You worry about your other things in other areas and other times. Like if Jacob Rodriguez is there and they don't take him, they've got to absolutely love somebody that they're taking at that point. So they should not make a pick based on what Dave Griffiths says on the Colts Blue Zone podcast.
Are you sure?
Well, maybe they should. Maybe if they listen to me, one or two things would go better for them. maybe not this though. But I think it would be surprising if he got there. Is just what I'm saying. But he would feel an obvious need right away, Chap, for what the Colts defense
And again,
is.
like I said, they need a starter, and they've been whatever their deficiencies are from an evaluation standpoint. They've been good at linebacker. Mm-hmm. They really have. We're not saying this guy's going to be Shaq Leonard, but they've got Anthony Walker and Bobby Okereke and Zaire. So yeah, he wants a 3-down player, and that's a 3-down player for 4 years. So that would be a pretty good pick.
Jake Golday is another player from CBS's Mike Renner, a second-round pick. I got him in the third round in my my all-Raz draft that we showed last week. But Dane Brugler also had the Colts taking him in his second round of his mock draft. 6'4", 239 pounds, big explosive linebacker, better suited work near the line of scrimmage, average in coverage is what the review is on him. If that's the case, like you'd be relying more on an Akeem Davis-Gaither, who you just signed in free agency, to be more of the tight end cover linebacker, the will who kind of moving around, and then Golday is your guy to kind of be the Mike in the middle, exactly to cover that area. So, is it impossible to take Golday in the second round? Obviously not, because other people have him there. Like I said, he's slipped all the way to the third round for me twice in my mock draft. So we'll see about Golday. I think he's going to be an interesting guy, and we'll probably get some play right away wherever he ends up, and if it's in Indianapolis, certainly so. Third round picks that we have on here, Mac, and I'm going to jump right back to the top and kind of go through them again. Yeah, just so you know where I'm going here.
Going to Caleb Banks next. I'm
Exactly.
assuming?
Yes, Caleb Banks, defensive tackle out of Florida, 6'6", 237 pounds in the third round from CBS's Mike Renner. Chap, for a position that probably won't get a lot of attention, defensive tackle for the Colts. You have Buck, you have Grove, but that's something that in the future this could be a very big need. And
you
know how
need to start planning.
What Chris Ballard says about the trenches, like that's so valuable. So it's not out of the question that he takes one of these second or third round picks on a defensive interior guy.
Right, because a lot of their offseason moves were rotational players on the interior of the defensive line. They think Tommy's going to be a pretty good player. He's coming off of a very good
year, stepping
season.
up. Yeah.
So, but if they ever go against mock drafts and take a defensive tackle early, it's you may not agree with me because they must really like this guy because Chris will not shy away.
No.
From D-line, O-line.
Let's stay in the SEC and go to the other side of the ball. Out of Tennessee, wide receiver Chris Brazzell 6'4", 198 pounds. This is Dane Brugler of the Athletics' third-round pick for the Colts. Long-limbed Z receiver, ability to create downfield, thirsty to make more explosive plays outside, but inconsistent finisher, needs more physicality. You love traits, you love receivers, and that's a possibility if they want to go that way. Like I would personally find it. I don't know if they take a receiver that high. Like I really think that they want to give Josh Downs more play, and if they draft someone else, they're kind of sneaking reps away from him. So, like, if someone's on their board that is high up on their board, then
they could.
Then Chris Ballard could stick to the board and take him. But I just don't know if they're targeting receiver that early in the draft.
I'm sure they're not, because I think they need that.
Right.
And whenever I really pound receiver, they say, yeah, not really.
Well, speaking of receiver, another receiver taken in the third round by NFL.com's Chad Reuter, Deshaun Stribling out of Ole Miss, long striding, vertical access wideout, steady play in production, good size, early acceleration to climb over coverage, lacks short area quickness underneath at 6'2", 207 pounds. Sounds like a smaller Alec Pierce to me if he lacks the quickness underneath. And if that's maybe what you want to fill with Michael Pittman now gone of the underneath plays. Stribling, they would have to really believe in his big playability to draft him in a position like this, in my opinion.
I'm not, again, I'll always mention in these draft stuff Elijah Surratt, because he's an outside guy.
Chap's banging the drum.
I'm banging the drum for him. Whether he'd be there in round 4, I don't know. I think a lot of guys have him going in round 3.
Mm-hmm.
But again, if you're going to replace Pitt, you need to find somebody on the outside, who can make the contested catches, and I think they need that, and they'll probably tell me, not really.
Well, back to the interior for the third round of Bleacher Report's draft. Grayson Halton out of Oklahoma, 6'3", 293 pounds. According to Lance Zierlein, NFL.com, an undersized 3 technique with disruptive attributes. That sounds like Adetomiwa Adebawore right there, like disruptive
Absolutely.
with those tributes.
Yep.
Halton best suited for a rotational role in a movement-based front. Be a rotational guy. Come in, be the second unit. Muck things up for the offensive line whenever you're in there. Like that would be fantastic to get for a defensive tackle if you're going to take him that high in the third round.
Right.
You know, you expect him to do something, but not be like the guy that you rely on play after play there.
Let's say it's just an odd situation, because again, you've got to plan ahead for Grove and Buck. Grove may be in his last year of his contract as well, and they're both 30-ish. So you need to plan ahead. But right now, you've got to. I would be more, I need immediate impact because of the urgency of this season.
Yeah.
But they still have to look ahead to building the roster for the future.
Final player here on this list of mock draft picks for the Colts in the third round from NFL.com's Chad Reuter is Kyle Lewis, the linebacker out of Pittsburgh, 6 feet, 220 pounds, which is a little bit undersized for a linebacker in the NFL. A little bit undersized, but you can see the C on his chest there, a captain, a guy who was a Senior Bowl participant himself. Let's see, made fewer mental mistakes in 2024 is what Lance Zierlein says, so 2 years ago. He has speed, athleticism, recognition to quickly find the football. I think he'd be an interesting pick for them in the third round if he's there, because, I don't know, he seems to be the guy that's more suitable for a covering the tight end type linebacker, and that is something Colts fans have just been clamoring for the past, I don't know, eight years. Like
they're not the only team that has a problem with that, but
like,
when it's a problem, it's just something.
And we saw this, like last
right.
year, the Colts were one of the worst teams in the league in covering tight ends and giving up receptions to tight ends and giving up touchdowns to tight ends and yards to tight ends. So it's obvious when it's a problem, and it's just like you're banging you're against the wall. Like, what's going on here? Why aren't you doing anything to fix this? And well, if you don't have the guys to keep up with the best tight ends in the league, like the NFL goes by like swaying in terms of like goes toward one thing and then the offense or defense catches up, whatever it is. And hyper elite tight ends is something that's really big right now. And like guys like a Tyler Warren that the Colts took last year, like he's a special player. And the kid Sadiq out of Oregon, who's coming into the draft this year, is a freak that is kind of just the next in line in this area. So.
Well, the Colts got to where they were using DBs to cover the guy.
Yeah,
safety and Jalen Jones.
Yeah, so that's most of the content here for our show. We'll put you all on the spot. What position do you think the Colts take in the second round after trading back to the end of the second round? After that deal goes through. Matt will go with you, then Chap, then I'll finish up.
I think they go defensive end or edge. It's going to depend on how the board falls. That's always the caveat
Right.
with
Yes,
that. But
always.
I think that's where they go because that is linebackers a need. But I think it's a deeper. They're both deep classes, but I think edge is the bigger need here.
Chap?
I agree. Edge is the bigger need. I just sort of think they're going to get a better value at linebacker. They're going to get a player that's rated higher on their board at linebacker. Although again, if it's close, you take the edge rusher. But I'll stick with linebacker.
It's just interesting to me that there's only one edge guy in that entire list that Matt put together here from all these mocks. Like it's Akis out of Illinois, who's again more the rugged guy than twitchy guy. So like it's hard to get traits guys in the second round because they take them in the first round or high in the second round.
And that's the thing. I'm sorry.
There'll be 5 or 6 edge guys going round 1.
Yeah, when you have a deep class, that means that all the teams that picked before you in the first round and the second round are going to go for those guys. So I don't know if any of those guys are going to be there.
So it's hard to get them where the Colts are drafted. You get the freak edge, freak production, and big guys, and then the next group is the production guys like Akis who don't have the traits, and then eventually you get to later in the draft guys out of like smaller schools that are maybe more 6'2", 6'3", and
Robert
250 pounds. Exactly, guys like Robert Mathis.
250.
And maybe they translate to the NFL and maybe they don't, but
they're
not going to
raw,
take them in the second.
They're developmental, and they don't solve your immediate need.
Right. So the Colts are finding themselves in a position that does not lend itself to taking what they want, the big trait guy. But maybe somebody slips. Maybe it works out for them. And
I'd love to see their draft
and we'll
board
talk
at the end of round 1.
Wouldn't you just like to 1 year just be able to
Be welcomed
look
in.
at it?
Right. I won't tell anybody.
Yeah, I won't take a picture. I'm not going to tweet it out. I just want to know what's on there.
I will be sworn to silence, and I will keep that promise. But we'll find out how it all shakes down over the next couple of days. Really exciting to see it. This is an exciting time for everyone across the NFL who's a fan and eager for these next days to see who comes to the Colts in just a week or two for rookie minicamp.
March or May 6th, I think it is.
So they'll be here before you know it,
Right.
and they'll bring them down to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway and let them check out all the cars down there as they always do, which is a fun time for some of those
Probably
rookies.
most of them's first appearance at IMS.
Yep, and we'll get to enjoy that,
Right.
and hopefully we get to enjoy the draft this weekend. Thanks for listening to the Colts Blue Zone Podcast alongside Mike Chappell and Matt Adams. I'm Dave Griffiths. We appreciate you watching on the Fox 59 Now app. We'll see you next week after the Colts bring in some new players via the NFL Draft.